Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. My name is David. I am 27 years old and I am a middle manager in a telecom company. I met Susan 2 years ago when she first came to the company and was my subordinate. As her immediate supervisor, I have maintained a rigorous work ethic. I was impressed with Susan's hard work and ability to learn. Whenever she was struggling, I patiently coached her and watched her grow step by step. Slowly, I found myself looking forward to seeing her in the office every day. It's a little embarrassing to say that I've never been in a serious relationship. In college and after work, my classmates and friends entered marriage one by one, while I was always immersed in my work. Maybe it's because I've been more interested in anime characters since I was a kid, and real-life relationships are too complicated for me. But when I met Susan, everything was different. She's 25, 2 years younger than me, lively and cheerful, and always brings a touch of energy to the dull office. We often work late together and sometimes have dinner together. Gradually, I developed different feelings for her. When I worked up the courage to invite her on a first date, I was both nervous and expectant. I secretly vowed that Susan would be the only love of my life. We fell in love quickly and were married a year later. On the day of the wedding, my heart was filled with happiness and anticipation as I watched Susan walk towards me in her white wedding dress. With all the well wishes from my coworkers, I felt like the luckiest person in the world. On the first day of our marriage, I said to Susan, "Honey, now that we're married, you don't have to work anymore. I make enough to support us. I want to give her a warm home so she can focus on enjoying life." But Susan's reaction was unexpected. "This is so sudden. You never mentioned this before." She looked a little confused. I explained, "I've always wanted my wife to focus on family life. Don't worry, my income is enough for us to live comfortably." I could tell Susan was a little hesitant. She said the job was recommended by her father, and it didn't seem right to quit suddenly. But I had already made up my mind to give her the best life possible, so I stood my ground. "You don't have to go to work from tomorrow. I'll handle the resignation." Although Susan left her job without being able to say a proper goodbye to her coworkers, I believe it was the right decision. I look forward to creating our own happy life with her. Every day when I come home from work, seeing her busy figure in the kitchen and smelling the aroma of the food, I feel immensely satisfied. However, as time passed, I realized that Susan didn't seem to be enjoying this life as much as I thought she would. I always ate her cooking in silence, but rarely expressed my gratitude. I know she's trying to get used to her new role, but I've always felt that this was the best arrangement. After all, I want to give her a carefree life and make her a competent wife. Our married life seemed peaceful, but I could feel Susan's inner turmoil. Sometimes I think that maybe I should have been more concerned about her feelings, but whenever I see her doing her best to take care of the house, I feel like I made the right decision. I believe that as long as we support each other and understand each other, we will be able to go further. Life after marriage wasn't as good as I thought it would be. Although I work hard every day to give Susan the best life I can, she always seems to be distracted. Sometimes I come home from working late and realize she hasn't prepared dinner yet, or see her lying in bed saying she doesn't feel well. I remember coming home one day to find Susan bedridden. She said she felt ill and was unable to complete her chores. I admit that I may have overreacted a bit at the time when I said, "It's disappointing that you don't even have to work and you're in bed because of a minor illness." I regretted the words as soon as they were out of my mouth, but the sight of the scattered rooms and unfinished chores made my anger uncontrollable. That night, I watched Susan barely finish her chores with tears in her eyes. But I always felt that as a full-time housewife, I should insist on getting the housework done even when I was not feeling well. After all, I work hard every day to support my family. As time went on, I noticed that Susan was going out more and more often. Sometimes she says she's going to the grocery store, but it takes her a long time to get back. Sometimes she says she's going to a party with friends, but she always comes home preoccupied. I began to wonder if maybe the decision to let her quit wasn't wise, but my pride prevented me from admitting it. Until one day, I accidentally found out Susan was pregnant. When I got home from work that day, I saw a pregnancy test in the bathroom trash can. Seeing the two lines displayed above gave me incredibly mixed feelings. I was both happy and apprehensive, not knowing how to deal with the sudden news. I remember making a point of buying her favorite dessert that day, expecting her to reach out and tell me the good news. But she didn't bring it up until late at night. I watched her do her chores as if nothing had happened, and my heart grew sadder and sadder. Finally, as I was about to take a break, Susan spoke up. "David, I have something to tell you. I think I might be pregnant, but I haven't gone to the hospital to confirm it yet." Her tone was so flat it made my heart ache, as if she were talking about something unimportant. I didn't show my inner loss, but just responded coldly, "Really? Then take care of yourself." I knew that reply might hurt her, but I just couldn't help myself. Pregnancy should have been a cause for celebration, but between us, it turned into a heavy topic. Since that day, I've noticed Susan's behavior has become more erratic. She began to deliberately avoid me and rarely spoke to me. Even when we shared a room, it was like living in two worlds. I tried to distract myself by working, often working late until I got home. Looking at Susan's growing belly, I was conflicted. I know I should act more considerate, but I can't help but get angry whenever I think about her attitude. I began to question whether this child would really turn our marriage around. Sometimes I would sneakily check Susan's cell phone late at night, hoping to find some kind of clue, but she always seemed to be discreet and never left any suspicious traces. This suspicion and mistrust pained me so much that I began to wonder if I really knew this woman. As Susan's pregnancy progressed, the tension between us grew. She no longer prepares meals as meticulously as she used to, and housework has become perfunctory. I know pregnant women need to be more understanding, but I just can't get over her negative attitude. The twist in everything happened when Susan was 5 months pregnant. The other day, while I was organizing her bag, I accidentally found a small shopping ticket. At first I didn't care, thinking it was just a normal spending record. But when I looked closer, I realized that it was a spending slip from a fancy hotel. The date shows it was last Wednesday, the exact day Susan said she was going into labor. My hands began to shake as a sense of foreboding came over me. Continuing to rummage, I found another receipt for a bottle of men's perfume. I'm familiar with this brand because a coworker at work has been using it. That's Tom, the head of the marketing department, who often works with Susan. These discoveries keep me up at night. I began to think back to Susan's recent abnormalities. She was always distracted, often excused herself from the house, and even her housework had become perfunctory. But she was carrying our child, after all, and I couldn't bear to question her directly. I decided to remain silent for the time being and observe in silence. Every night, I would secretly check her bag and clothes, hoping to find more evidence. Susan seems to have sensed something and become more cautious. She started carrying her cell phone with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. Just as I was sinking into deep remorse and pain, my father made an unexpected phone call. He rarely reaches out to me, but this time he seemed extra eager. "David, I have something important to tell you." Father's tone was unusually serious. "Dad, what happened?" I asked with some concern. "It's about Susan." Father paused. I had her background checked. I was too surprised to say anything. It turned out that my father had been quietly watching our marriage. She had an inappropriate relationship with Tom before she was married. My father's words pierced my heart like a sharp blade. I have hard evidence. I gripped the phone tightly, trying to control my emotions. "Are you sure?" "1,000 times over." Father sighed. "I didn't want to discourage you before, but now you need to know the truth. Her relationship with Tom is no secret in the company." The news broke me instantly. All the suspicions were answered. Why she had suddenly agreed to quit her job, why she had shown such indifference to her pregnancy, and why she had been so absent-minded lately. "Kids." I spoke with difficulty. "DNA testing can confirm." My father seemed to have guessed my concern, but the most important thing right now is that you handle this calmly. After hanging up the phone, I sat paralyzed on the couch, thinking back over the marriage. All those images that I once thought were sweet memories are now ironic and bitter. I suddenly realized why she was acting so strangely after the pregnancy and why she was getting cold towards me. Over the next few days, I began to watch Susan's every move closely. I noticed that she was constantly messaging on her cell phone and quickly putting it away whenever I was near. Her labor and delivery appointments were always long, and sometimes she didn't see anyone for the whole day. I began to wonder if this soon-to-be-born child was really mine. The thought pained me, but I had to face the possibility. Susan's reaction to pregnancy sickness was severe, and I should have been heartbroken, but every time I saw her having a hard time, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. My father suggested I hire a private investigator, but I refused. I don't want to make a big deal out of this. I decided to wait until the right time to reveal this. After all, I need sufficient evidence to prove my suspicions. My heart grew heavy as I watched Susan's growing belly. I began to question my role as a husband and the authenticity of the marriage. Every night, I would sit alone in my study until late, thinking about how to face this harsh reality. Things finally reached a breaking point when Susan was 9 months pregnant. That night, I prepared dinner as usual and waited for Susan to return from labor and delivery. As she slowly walked into the dining room, I noticed that she had an extraordinarily tired look on her face. We ate in silence, and the atmosphere at the table was breathtakingly stark. Suddenly, Susan put down her chopsticks with a hint of disdain in her voice. "Your salary is really too low. It's not enough to support your family." This statement completely ignited my long-suppressed anger. I looked at her coldly. "Really? And do you think Tom's paycheck will be higher?" Susan's face instantly turned pale, obviously not expecting me to suddenly mention the name. She tried to hide her panic. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." I stood up and walked to the den. When I returned, I was holding a stack of papers that had been prepared long ago. "Divorce papers." I pushed the papers in front of her. "I assume you've been waiting for this day for a long time." Susan looked at the papers in shock, seemingly unable to comprehend what was happening for a moment. "This is so sudden," she stammered. "Why?" I sneered. "Suddenly? This was bound to happen from the beginning of your relationship with Tom. I've known about you guys for a long time." Her eyes flickered as she tried to defend herself. "What are you talking about? Tom and I are just regular co-workers." "Enough." I interrupted her. "Stop pretending. My father is the CEO of a tech company. Do you think I can't find out the truth?" The news obviously shocked Susan. Her eyes widened, and her lips trembled as she couldn't speak. "I'll move back in with my parents tomorrow," I said calmly. "And as for this baby, I'll ask for a paternity test. If it's really mine, I'll take responsibility to the end." Susan seemed to realize the seriousness of the matter as she hurriedly stood up. "David, let me explain." "No need to explain." I interrupted her. "Sign it. Didn't you always want a better life? Now you're free." As I watched her trembling hand sign the document, I felt an indescribable pang of sadness. There was a time when I thought she was the one for me, but now I realize it was all a lie. The next morning, I moved back to my parents' house. Susan called several times, but I refused to answer. I know she's probably trying to undo it, but some damage once done can never be repaired. When my father saw me return, he just patted my shoulder. "Don't worry, the company still needs you." I understood what my father meant. He wanted me to turn my attention to my work. For the next few days, I threw myself completely into my work. Whenever I think of Susan, I work twice as hard and try to numb myself with busyness. My father began to involve me in important company decisions, and I slowly realized that perhaps this was his good intention. 2 months later, I received notice from the hospital that Susan had given birth to a healthy baby boy. The results of the paternity test confirmed that this was indeed my child. Despite this, I still can't forgive her for her betrayal. I arranged for visitation rights and support through my attorney, but never visited them. Sometimes I think of the self that once entered marriage with longing and can't help but feel the impermanence of life. But I know better. Some choices, though painful, are necessary. Now I finally understand the deep meaning of my father at the beginning, and I am more determined to make a difference in my career. One day, 6 months later, I got a call from Susan. This is the first time since the divorce that she has contacted me directly instead of through an attorney. I wanted to hang up, but the voice on the other end of the line breathed a hint of panic. "David, I just saw a program on TV." Her voice was shaking. "Your father is the CEO of a tech company? Your family has millions of dollars in assets?" I sneered. "What, now you know you care? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Her tone suddenly became agitated. "If I had known." What would happen if you knew? I interrupted her. Will be more attentive to the marriage? Or will you be more careful to hide your relationship with Tom? There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. David, can we start over? I know I was wrong. Now Tom sighed. Enough. I interrupted her sternly. You know what? Father has transferred $4 million worth of shares into my name. And guess what? All of this was after our divorce. Susan sucked in a breath of cold air. $4 million? David, you can't do this. How am I? My voice was filled with sarcasm. You think I don't know when things started between you and Tom? Even before we got married. You guys were? That's not true. She rushed to her defense, but there was a note of weakness in her voice. Don't pretend, Susan. Everyone in the company knows. Do you think you can keep your affairs under wraps? I continued, I have to tell you something. I've had my attorney prepare the paperwork to ask you to pay more alimony. After all, as someone who never did her duty as a mother, that's what you owe us. You can't. Susan's voice took on a sobbing tone. I'm in a difficult situation. Tom, I heard, I said coldly. Tom's new love has spent all his money and now he can barely pay his mortgage. It's ironic, isn't it? Susan's sobbing came from the other end of the line. I know she's in a really bad place right now. Rumor has it that Tom found another new love behind her back, spent all his savings on the other guy, and is now heavily in debt. Susan, on the other hand, has seen her quality of life plummet after losing my financial support. David, please. Her voice choked. Needless to say, I said calmly, you know what? Father has decided to let me take over the company. You, on the other hand, will have to continue to struggle in your financial woes. That's what your choices have brought about. After hanging up, I walked over to the window and looked out at the bustling city. I think of my naive self, who once thought love was a fairy tale. Now I finally understand what's really important. My father came into the study, looked at me and said, preparations for the handover of the company have begun. The board is pleased with your performance. I nodded. Thanks, Dad. I've learned a lot in this time. You've grown, my father patted me on the shoulder, and sometimes some hurt is the way to go. Nowadays, I focus on my work every day and try to learn about business management. There are no plans to remarry, but I will visit my child regularly to give him the best life and education possible. It may not have been the most perfect ending, but at least I found my way in life. As for Susan, I hear she's having a tough time. Tom has left the company due to debt issues, and their relationship has come to an end. She often borrowed money from friends, but few were willing to help her. That may be the price of betrayal. Sometimes I wonder if our marriage would have ended differently if it had been based on sincerity. But reality has given the answer that some people, some things, must be put down after all. Now I have learned to look at everything with a more rational eye. My career achievements have given me a new purpose in life, and taking care of my children has given me a different sense of meaning in life. This may be growth that teaches us to be strong in pain, vigilant in betrayal, and reborn in failure. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.